everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Tactic Saves. So, this is where we're going to go through a tactic that was requested by someone. I do not remember your name, but you'll be there and I will have the video for you guys. But this tactic is supposed to be a defensive tactic that was asked for. Now, I've got some good success with it with two teams we tested it with. We did Everton as well as Atletico Madrid, as I felt that they really suited the defensive output. We've got Sean Dyche and we got Diego Simeone, two defensive stalwarts and really big ones of the game. Now, there was two tactics that I found that kind of worked because I think this year especially, the defending really doesn't work well in FM. You can't defend deep. For some reason, it's so heavily designed towards high pressing, high possession, high intensity that it just doesn't work right to defend deep. Now, you can do it in stretches where I've had just incredible success with a heavily defensive tactic that I use to see out games a lot. You guys have seen me use it in my saves. I've used it in network saves. I've been really successful. So that works really well for me, and I know I do that in stretches, and it's incredible. But when it comes to the over a full season, it really doesn't work very well, and it sucks in that sense because it's annoying. You can't play that hard-nosed 4-4-2 kind of defensive setup. You can't really do that old like Mourinho incredible 3-4-3 defensive style that we saw in the Premier League many years ago. But I did have success doing these kind of two different formations and the way it worked in more of a mid-block style. So I hope you guys are interested to see. I know it's not the same as I've normally done, but it's something different, it's something new, and I hope you guys are excited to see it. So into the tactics we go. We'll discuss how it works, little things like that, and then we'll go through the teams and how everything has done. So we're going to chat about the way this tactic works. So the thing I mainly want to chat about is the design of the two. They're similar, but slightly different in the way they work. They had kind of varied results. So I just want we'll talk about both of them, but they're very similar. They're just some different player instructions in the way they work. I found that both had pros and cons to them, and I felt I'd show you both, and then you guys can decide what you want to download. They'll be both available in the download link below and on Steam and everything like that. So that is the case. It's just they're slightly different, so we'll talk about that, but it's the small things. It's not major things. It's just the base idea is the same. But the other issue is that, as I mentioned in the beginning, nothing really worked how I wanted it to. It really sucks the way that the tactic engine seems to work this year. It really heavily encourages high pressing. If you don't high press, if you don't play with a high line, if you sit deep and try to defend, it doesn't really work very well, and it just causes more and more issues for you defensively. Your team lets in stupid goals, does stupid positioning, and it doesn't work. I've found that I have a lot of success defending deep in short-term scenarios. So in terms of late on and deeper into games, it works really well, but in terms of the overall gist of it, it doesn't work over a season. Now, I will say I did get teams, as we tested with Everton and Atletico Madrid, to have incredible defensive records, finished with Everton finishing in the top 3, I believe, in the defense for the Premier League, and even winning the FA Cup, and Atletico Madrid winning the Copa del Rey, and having a really, really good defensive record on top of that as well. So I did get that to happen, but it's not kind of with the way I intended it in the tactic. So I got it to work, but it wasn't what I wanted defensively. Now, I want to defend deep. I want to defend hard-nosed, gritty defensive, aggressive play, physicality, pumping it long to the striker, knocking it down to 2 guys. They do their work as a 3. They try to attack. Oh no, it doesn't work. Guess what? We got 10 people behind the ball now. Work, try to get something with the 3. So, like, that's kind of what I'd like to see a little more, but it doesn't work. So, I've come up with this. It is an asymmetrical 3-4-2-1. So these are the positions. And it's how it's designed. Now, we play with a mid block. So the team is going to set up in a mid block more than anything else. So you'll probably see the shape looking more like this in game. Now these guys are sitting narrower, so there's a big amount of bodies here, These guys are more like this. So this is probably going to be the shape where they are in game, and he'll be a little higher for slide. That's kind of where we're going to defend from. And this is kind of mainly where we're going to be. Now, it's pretty solid defensively, I will say, in terms of this. It does work quite well, but it doesn't... You'll see what I talk about. So the way it's going to work is that this shape stays. Now, we have a pressing forward up top who's going to press and be aggressive and hopefully try to disrupt, in my mind, their 6. That's his goal. So that's one thing you'll have to do when you play this tactic is design him to a man mark. He'll need to man mark the main guy in possession, be it one of the two in a double pivot, be it both players in double pivot. If you need both, you use this guy here to help mark the other guy in the double pivot. Whatever it is, you have to be aggressive and you have to man mark their main build-up player in possession. That's a big thing you need to do in this tactic, because it will not be as successful if you don't do that, because then they will be able to possess the ball. You won't always press the right guy, and they can play through you and just slice through you like butter. So that's a really key thing, so you have to remember that. Plus, when I see you guys in the comments, I'll know you haven't listened to this bit, and I can hold you accountable for it. So I've told you now, you know, so don't come crying when things don't work, because you've heard this from me here, and you know that's the thing you have to worry about. But otherwise, they're kind of the guys that'll lead the press and hopefully force things to go differently. Now, they're going to be aggressive. We want our team to get stuck in, and we want these bodies to be rough in that. Now, they're going to sit in the mid block, and they're going to counter press heavily. So if they lose the ball, they're going to be really aggressive, because the thing is that when we attack, there's only going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the guys that are attacking, pretty much. It's these guys. They're going to lead the attack. So these guys stay back. And so the thing is that if we do lose the ball, which will probably be kind of in this middle area once we win it, because think about it, we're really narrow, we're really connected and deep, right? We're bunched together. We have, we're in a mid block, so we're in this shape. And if we lose it in the middle here, if we win it back, and then we play one pass picked off, guess what? We want to press hard. We want to get aggressive. We want to press them and use all the numbers we have to win that ball back and be hyper aggressive in the middle. Now, I wish I could design it so it only counter presses in parts of the pitch, because that's what I really want, but I can't, unfortunately, so we're going to have to stick with it, and it's worked quite well, so that's the good thing. The other thing I do want to is to step up more, to compress the field even more to help that counter press work. So I really want to compress it. If they look to have in possession, we step up, be aggressive on them. So, in essence, they can engage us here, around midfield is where we start our engagement, but after that, they either have to go long, over the top, into not much of an area where a goalkeeper should be able to get it, or they're going to have to play through a highly congested center of the pitch. And that's the idea there, is we step up really high, we compress the field, there's a very, very little space. So, like, we want to have it so that, in essence, this is the area they have to attack through. This is the chunk they have. You have to go through us here. We don't care about this area at all. This is whatever, right? Who cares about this? Doesn't matter. That's just whatever. Because guess what? If they do get into that area, we're dropping off at that point, right? Like, if they're attacking down the wings, we're already dropped off, and we're now going to crowd the box with all the bodies we have. Think about it. Like, we already have all these people back now. So there's not going to be much for them to do once we do drop to that deeper shape. So we'll give them that outside. We don't care about that. We want to defend this box of space really, really well, and we want to limit all their availability to get through that said space. There can be no one allowed in here to get out and do anything. Now, you will say, James, there's a lot of width. Like, you only have one guy wide. That's fine. I don't care. I want them to go wide. Like, we have so many people in the middle, we want them to go wide and try to go around us, because then we can drop off. It gives us more time to get back. So that's kind of what we want to do in that sense. And that's kind of how we want to look to defend with this system and what we're going to do defensively. Now, when it comes to scoring goals, this is where I've struggled to have the transition work right. Now, I've got it to work decently well in what I'm intending, but it's not totally perfect, and they can get caught out via the counterattack when this does occur. But that's okay. It's obviously you're looking to defend, so I found that having a more balanced or counterattack manner worked a lot better because the team was less willing to send people forwards. But we do counter, and the players that counter, as I mentioned, are the two wingbacks, one of the 8 here, the center mid that's attacking, the playmaker, and the pressing forward. Now, when they go forwards, in essence, there's going to be... So this guy's a playmaker. He's going to roam around and find a spot to be. We have 2 center mids. We have a center mid on attack and a segundo volante. So they'll run forward and kind of create this shape. And on top of that, we'll have the wingbacks coming forward with them. So we hopefully in attack get this shape here. And that's what I'm looking for, is this. Because then we have the defensive structure that you see here. So these guys are going to be there. And then on top of that, this center back is a stopper, so he steps up into these areas more. So you hopefully, we'll clear this. You hopefully have this kind of shape here. So these guys are stepped up a little more. These guys are like this. It's not totally perfect because there's some space here they can attack into. But your hope is that when we do attack, this guy vacated the space. Because he's vacated it, we have a little more of a staggered shape that's going to help. Whereas if he was deeper here, there's too much space in the middle. He at least can help stop some attacks before they start. And it's the aggressiveness of that step up that we're looking for. Now, when they attack like this, the goal is, let's get it to the wingbacks. They're hopefully transition it forward, bring it into these wider areas. They stretch it. We have our players running in, trying to do stuff. These guys hopefully make runs. Pressing forward makes runs. 10 kind of hangs around the outside. Boom, cross into one of these guys or cut it back, replays into them. Boom, we score a goal. And that's pretty much what it is in terms of how we want to look to play and what we want to look to do. Now, I definitely think it's a little more summed up, and there's no clips right now, but we'll show some clips later as I talk through a little bit more of what I want to see and where we want to do stuff. So I want to talk a little bit more about the analytics and showing you guys through the data hub where stuff is occurring and what stuff is happening, as I think that's going to be a little more important with this one than just showing you some clips, but we will talk about and show some of those as well. So that's done with the tactics. It's time to discuss the teams, how they did, show you guys what happened, and how each of the 2 versions fared. So this is tactic version number 1. Now, these are the stats for Everton. As you can see, we actually won the FA Cup with this build. I found this one worked a lot better in terms of the it's worked really well in the cups for some reason. So one of the things I wanted to discuss was if you look at the results, lots of draws, losses, and other things like that. But if you can see here, there's not, like, when you look, 2-0 wins, 0-2 loss, it kind of worked where it was either pretty even or no goals were scored by the team. There's lots of draws, as you can see, pretty close encounters as well at many periods. So it wasn't the worst in that sense. In terms of the Premier League, the team did finish 11th, but the defense was quite good. They did win the FA Cup, and they were knocked out in the quarterfinal of this cup as well. Sorry, let me go back to home. So you can see here, they had the 5th worst attack, the 9th best in terms of goals allowed. Beto had 24 goals. They had the 3rd worst cards, which is pretty funny. But that shows you the aggressiveness that we were looking for in the team. Now, in terms of the expected positions, they finished where they were expected to finish. And if we look at the data hub, we can start to see some of the things with the team. So one of the things I obviously talked about was winning the ball deep in that kind of mid-block area. Everton were usually a lot deeper, so they won it heavily in these areas here. On top of that, the pressing intensity, as we can see, high number of opposition passes per defensive action and a lower defensive line position. And higher defensive line position. So we're kind of in the middle of that. So average line height per game. So we're kind of in the middle of where we want it. So that mid block, as I was talking about, and opposition passes per action. So they had a lot. So we sat in that mid block, shifted side to side. We weren't too aggressive about it. We let them go about their business, but we stopped them when they got close, when we were deeper. So we can see here, obviously there are a little bit of the issues in terms of that build up, losing it deeper, but mainly when the ball was lost, it was in these middle areas here, which is what I want to see because we're much better in terms of pressing against it. And you could also see possession was mainly gained in these areas as well, where we generally would regain possession in these spots, as we didn't really have it too much in those higher areas. Now, in possession, we were infrequently in possession, but we were reliable when we had it, so which is a good thing. So we didn't always win the ball, but when we had it, we were reliable, and you can see we were pretty good in terms of possession loss per game. We lost the ball the least out of everyone in the league in this season. It's just that we just didn't win it back a lot, which is fine. In terms of the shot map, I talked about it's all those kind of central areas, which you can see here very much in the central spots. And in terms of the passing dynamics, lots of passes against, but we also completed a lot of passes as well, which is good to see. In terms of the pitch tilt, fewer passes against in the final third, but fewer passes for us in the final third, which is what we want to see as well. So we didn't concede a lot of passes in the final third, but we also didn't have as many arrows. But still, it's more the defensive aspect we're looking for. And then finally, we need that dribbling to carry us forwards. And we're one of the best teams in terms of dribbling the entire season. We had lots of dribbles per game, and we were really good in terms of keeping the ball. So it's great to see. So that really worked quite well for us. Now, when it comes to Atletico Madrid for this group, they really smashed it. The second best defense, second best in goals scored. And this is the same exact tactic, guys. You can see here, this is what this is. This is what this is. Same exact thing. No change at all. The same exact tactic. So with these guys, you can see it's very similar stuff. Winning in those areas, they lost the ball a little higher up as they had some higher quality defenders, but possession gained to that mid-block area. They didn't win it a lot, but they were really reliable. The shots in those same central areas, high number of defense, similar to Everton, that same kind of area. Defensive line, theirs was a little higher, but they had a high number of defensive passes, higher defensive line. Even here, look at this, passing dynamics. Again, fewer passes against, lots of passes completed. Great to see. Pitch tilt. Again, fewer passes against the final third, lots of passes for us in the final third. They had a lot better possession in the final third, and lots of dribbles and reliable in possession. So we can see hitting all those marks that we're looking for in terms of what we wanted to see, and the way that ball was transitioned and carried forwards. So, with that being said, I'm going to chat a little about just the roles and stuff, but also to let you guys know how they did. They finished third, 81 points. They did get knocked out of their Champions League group, but then made it to the round 16 before losing to Liverpool. They won the Copa del Rey and got knocked out of the semifinals of the Super Cup. So, a bit of a mixed bag, but stuff went really well, and we even saw Galan getting all those assists from that wingback position, which is what I talked about. But the second best in both, so you can see it worked quite well. And we can even see, if you do want to, we'll look even further at the team stats. I mean, 29 goals allowed over 38 games. Very impressive to me. And we tied for the most shutouts, 19 as well. So you can really see what difference it made. And even in terms of goals, 79 goals. So it worked really well for these guys in this system. And I think this one is catered a little more towards the better teams. But with that being said, we'll go through the tactic here. So the thing is on a balanced mentality. It is a 3-4-1-1-1 pretty much, but I call it a 3-4-2-1. Now the goalkeeper itself is superkeeper on defend with take fewer risks and ease off tackles. Your central defender on defend is take fewer risks and tackle harder. Your central defender in the middle is just on take fewer risks. Your central defender on the right is a center defend on stopper with take fewer risks and tackle harder. The right wing back is wing back in sport with cross more often, dribble more, run wide with ball, shoot less often, sit narrower, and tackle harder. The left wing back is the exact same roles. Now, the left defensive mid is a ball midfielder on defend, no additional instructions. The right center defensive mid is the secondo volante on support role with dribble more, shoot less often, get further forward, move into channels, tackle harder, and mark tighter. Finally, the left center mid is a center attacking midfielder on attack. The dribble more instructions, move into channels, tackle harder, mark tighter, and get further forward, which is obviously automatically on it. Then you have an advanced playmaker on support duty at the right attacking mid role with more direct passes, dribble more, and move into channels. Finally, you have your pressing forward on attack with no additional instructions. Now, as I mentioned before, we have a balanced mentality. In possession, we are fairly wide and have a higher tempo. Everything else is left alone. In transition, we counter press, we counter, we distribute quickly, and we go right to the fullbacks. Finally, out of possession, we sit in a mid-block with a mid-block line of engagement, a standard defensive line, much more often trigger pressing, get stuck in, and step up more. So that is the first version of mid-block of Doom. Now we're going to show you the second version, which had some other varied success in certain ways as well. Alright guys, so this is the second version of the tactic. And now as you can see, Everton did a lot better defensively this time. They finished 5th, only 41 goals allowed. They had more losses, but they No, they had a better defense. They just couldn't score as many goals. We see here they did get knocked out pretty early by pretty weak teams, which is the interesting thing. And they had a really, really rough stretch to end the season. But the odd thing is, if you do look, they managed to beat really good teams as well. It was really strange the way this tactic worked. You're able to beat really good teams and not bad teams, which was the odd thing I felt about this tactic. It's a strange one for sure, but it achieved a lot of the goals very similarly in terms of what we were looking for. It's pretty much the same as the other one, very similar. It's just changes in player roles, really. So I just kind of wanted to end a mentality. So I just want to also show you guys what this one is on top of that. Now, there's not really much else to say besides that. That's kind of just like a few other things there. On top of that, they were expected to finish worse off, but they did do better. So they did overperform here. Now, this version of the tactic, I think, is pretty clearly designed for a bit of a better team. When we look at a team like Atletico Madrid, we see it worked a lot better, as they got the third best goals allowed. So they did really, really well, again, defensively, but they even let in less goals than before, and they let in only 26 goals, which is really impressive. Now, in terms of the data hub, they actually were supposed to finish higher up in the table, which is nice to see. But it's pretty clear it made a difference. Now, they did become runner-up in the Copa del Rey again, and they finished third in this. And they made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League this time, and the semifinals of the Supercopa España. So it did work quite well for them in that regard. Now, if we do look here, we can see on top of that, fewest conceded, they had 26, and shutouts, they had 20. So it did work quite well in that sense in terms of those things there, but it's just one of those things that's really interesting in terms of how it all actually worked out and those things there. So I'll just quickly go through this one, as I just wanted to show you the secondary version. Now, this one is the same exact shape, same exact roles, but it has a cautious mentality. The sweeper keeper is on defend with take fewer risks, ease off tackles. The left center back is take fewer risks, essential defender on defend. Same exact thing for the middle defender. The right center back is a center defender on stopper, but with take fewer risks as well. The wingback, which is the right wingback on support, is run wide with ball, shoot less often, sit narrower, and tackle harder. The one on the left is the exact same role. Your ball-winning midfielder has 0 extra responsibilities, and your segundo volante on support is shoot less often, get further forward, move into channels, tackle harder, and mark tighter. Your center mid on attack is dribble more, move into channels, tackle harder, and mark tighter. Your advanced playmaker has no additional roles, and your pressing forward on attack has no additional roles as well. In possession, the team just has a much higher tempo. In transition, they look to counter press, counter, distribute quickly, and get the ball to the wingbacks. And finally, out of possession, they have a higher defensive line, have a mid block for the higher line of engagement, much more often, get stuck in, and step up more. So that's the second version of it. It's not totally different, just a few little tweaks here and there, and had some good things and some bad things to it. But I just want to show you both versions that I kind of felt were the best ones that I ended up with, and just show you the outcomes of both of those. So hope you guys did enjoy. I will now catch you guys at the wrap up of everything. So I hope you guys did enjoy our two defensive tactics that we had for you. Now, obviously, they're pretty much the same, just with slight variations on the two of them. But in the end, it is kind of what we were looking for in terms of that defensive setup. Now, it doesn't really work the way I wanted to, and it's just annoying because I can't really get it to work in the defensive attitude I'm wanting. And that really sucks, but I just don't think the game engine is designed for it anymore. And it really is unfortunate that you can't do it over a season, but I would suggest doing it over small stretches. I do think there are times where you can make very defensive tactics work in those stretches and work in those inclinations of them. So I would say find a defensive tactic that works for you. I do have some that are very strong, and I've made some myself, and I'm more than happy to share those guys with you guys in the comments. So do let me know if you want me to show you those tactics that I have, the ultra defensive ones. But in my mind, I think when it comes to that, you can't really do it over a season. You have to have a more progressive and more offensive tactic, and then you utilize these in either via your match plans or just a system that you do yourself based off the game's state and other things going on to adjust those and bring those things in. I think also defensive set pieces are a key to this doing as well as understanding how your team wants to work. I know for me, these do require, I think, more hands-on work to make them as defensively strong as others. but just something to keep in mind and something to look at and consider when you are trying to find a defensive tech that works for you. But again, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to catch up on more tactics videos, or even put in more requests, because I'm loving the requests you guys are doing, and I'm happy to keep doing those. Every Thursday we'll have request videos coming out. Please do so in the comments, or join our Discord and put it in my request section there, where I can have more written requests, and you can have more dialogue with me if you're interested to ask questions and things like that. Thank you again for watching. If you want to find more tactics, be sure to follow along the playlist link at the end of this video, and I'll be sure to catch you guys in the next one.